All right. So Seth, welcome to the show, brother. I
Thank
think
you.
yeah, man. I was having a conversation with your wife last week and I had this kind of comment come up and I thought it'd be good to start. It's
Mhm.
like nervous system work is the ultimate red pill. Um and I'm curious what your thoughts are there, and then what does it mean? Like, let's unpack what it means to
Mm.
have a spiritual awakening, or to no longer be asleep, to wake up in today's society.
Hmm. Well, let's start with like where did that term come from? Because red pill has now been hijacked by political stuff, but it
Yeah,
started just from the movie The Matrix, right?
yeah,
That's how it started. And all it meant back in the original meaning was to become aware of things that were hidden, that were underneath the surface. I guess what we would call occult knowledge. It just means hidden knowledge. To look at a deeper level of reality rather than just stay with the surface level. That's kind of what it meant originally, and that's the spirit in which we've used it. So I'm gonna, I'll talk about it in that context. Now it's associated with conservative, Republican, the Red Party, right? It's associated with other things, but yeah, in terms of the original meaning, it's like, yeah, it's about what's really going on, like what is really going on here, essentially. And in that context, absolutely. I mean, that's the nervous system, and understanding your nervous system and being able to work proactively with your nervous system to come to a state of regulation and maintain that is like the ultimate superpower these days, because our entire world is run on survival energy, and the current structure basically depends on everybody staying in survival mode. I mean, it wouldn't work if we weren't running around in survival mode. We wouldn't be able to tolerate what's asked of us if that wasn't the case. So those of us who do this work and become regulated, there's a lot of things that change in terms of what we're willing to do, and how we show up, and how, because we can no longer tolerate just go, 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 push through, use your survival energy. So it's talking about a paradigm shift. That's sort of the ultimate paradigm shift. But the thing is, it's not like flashy and sexy, right? It's
mhm,
like, it's each person doing this very kind of slow, careful work, titrated work on themselves to evolve themselves and become more regulated, and to learn. And all of that takes time and patience. And it means feeling difficult things and confronting beliefs about ourselves and the world that may not be useful anymore. And it's a paradigm shift that's internal. So you're literally seeing under the surface of things within yourself, and that is the red pill. And then you start to see, as you do that, the more you learn about yourself and how your nervous system functions, and how that's at odds with what's asked of us in this world, you start to see on a more global scale what's going on. And so that leads, I think, to that sort of more classic sense of the red pill, which is like, what's happening in society? What are the mechanisms at play that keep us running like a hamster on the wheel, that keep us from feeling, that keep us from questioning? And you can't really question or perceive more subtle things when you're jacked up on cortisol and adrenaline all the time, or if you're in shutdown and numb. So it really is. It's the revealing of what's going on in here, the understanding of what's going on in here. And then as that happens, that goes along with seeing what's happening out here and what's really
mhm.
going on out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like defying gravity. It's like everything that on many levels. The nervous system journey is first, it's personal, and I think it bleeds out into relationship, and then to family, into community, into the collective. And yeah, that makes sense of like, hey, these things don't work anymore. And it starts with, you mentioned go, go, go. Well, I need rest, and I need to recharge. And so while everyone else is burning it at both ends, that doesn't feel as attractive to me anymore.
That's
Um,
right.
and we start going against what we know. and damn, that feels better. What else
Mhm.
is down here? And you just keep going and keep going. But it's funny how these words get hijacked.
Mm,
Now, as you were describing the red pill and how that is on the right side, I also wrote down the woke and how
mhm.
that's kind of hijacked on the left in the
Yep.
past. Waking
Oh,
up.
anything. Take any term that is kind of useful and maybe points to something that's helpful to understand. It'll get taken and marketed and hijacked and labeled and combined with all sorts of other stuff. And I mean, yeah, it's part of the system of control, really. I mean, woke, that started as a term just among the African American community that simply meant be aware of the systemic structures that are perpetuating a reality that keeps certain people oppressed, usually people with dark skin.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things in the system that, yeah, that's still there. Gerrymandering is one of the big ones that's in there. But there's all sorts of things. Bank policies, there's all sorts of ways in which um, there's all sorts of structures that are part of a system of oppression that is still around that tends to disproportionately target people with darker skin. Now, that's how woke started. And now it means all sorts of shit. Like it means, yeah, things that I think were never intended. So that happens with all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Another word I think of is conspiracy theorist. And I learned that that was created to basically poo poo or dismiss people in the waking up process
Yep.
that are trying to communicate what they're sensing and feeling is going or seeing is going on. And it's like, oh no, they're a conspiracy theorists. Like they're crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so embedded that now it's even hard to use another term when it's like all it really means if someone is talking like, oh, that's conspiracy theory. What's happening is someone is pointing at things that may not be obvious, hidden motives, hidden agendas, things that are happening behind the scenes that people may not be aware of. It's not that big, it's not that fancy, but it's been, yeah, totally taken. And now there's all sorts of stuff that's nonsense, right? That's, I think, deliberately produced. Like, when I went through my conspiracy theory phase, which is basically just meant looking at like what's really going on here.
Yeah.
I'm back to the red pill, right? It takes a long time to sort through the nonsense. It's like, so, okay, yeah, you become aware of things that are real. Um, that like lots of stuff that happens with CIA, like they've done a lot of bad shit. There's a lot of things that have happened in the intelligence agencies and that are real. But now if okay, I believe this, now I have to believe the earth is flat. Like there's so many things that get coupled together. It's like, oh, because Operation Paperclip was a real thing, it must mean that there's shape-shifting lizards. Like there's so much that gets coupled together in those worlds, and so it makes it such that when you try to point at things that are real, you can easily get discredited because it's coupled with stuff that's bullshit. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's all intentional. That's all by design.
It makes it's
Mm.
just all this misdirect thing, and you take a good thing and people start to talk about that, and it's like somehow it gets spun in a way that makes you crazy to question your logic and to be ostracized by the community. And now we're talking about, if I feel safe in my community now because they're kicking me out, like I'm out of the crowd because I'm trying to wait people, or I'm trying to share the information that I'm learning as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
There's not
discarded. Go ahead. What you
Yeah.
say?
Oh, it's just a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to sort through. Like at a personal level of one's own journey, like well, just because you mentioned at the beginning, like, what's it mean to wake up or to be in a process of awakening? That is I mean, we're always, in some ways, I don't like that term because we're always awake, like, right? But what do we really mean? What we mean is we're becoming more conscious of things that are deeper. So there's the surface level that we all sort of agree on, consensual reality. A lot of that exists. I mean, maybe solely because we all just agree that it's that way, but maybe there's something else going on.
Oh,
And so when you start to look at those things, you start to become conscious to other stuff. And that's, I guess, what we mean by waking up. But like a person can be awake at different levels. Like someone may know really well how to fix your car, and that is a level of being conscious, of being awake, right?
Yeah.
um, or someone may have done a lot of research into the secret space programs and black budget, black book projects that are in the military industrial complex. That's a different kind of awakeness or awareness. So, yeah, you, there's all sorts of levels. And I think what's important is that we recognize that it's a continual evolution of learning. And in that process, there's a lot of nonsense to sort through, and there's a lot of really important stuff. So learning to differentiate is part of the process of becoming more conscious itself, I think.
That's a question I want to ask next. But first, I want to give like how I came to this because I love telling
Or
stories, and it's like it's really interesting how the nervous system and this stuff came together because I remember Trump. I'd never have paid attention to politics. I thought it was. Now I also, again, on the other side of coming out of this journey, I also think it's crazy. I don't want anything to do with it. But I remember on being on the golf course and my buddy telling me that Trump got shot, and it's like they were excited about it, and I'm like, what, and from there, I'm in my nervous system journey. SPT is coming up in a couple of months. I see this guy get shot at, and I'm like, what's going on? And so I start watching the news, and the first thing I was able to uncouple was that the news is really behind the left only. They're only talking about the left, it feels like. And it's like everything's bad about man with yellow hair. Not to say that he's good, it just felt very one sided. I thought that was really interesting. Um, and I was much more on the liberal side of things. And, started, I guess, looking at more conservative value. It was more, but it's like that even got hijacked.
mm,
The Republican Party, what I thought, and I learned about the cabal, and I learned about how this cabal has infiltrated itself into politics. And I thought, oh, it's only the left. The left are the bad people.
right,
And that was fucking with me. It was so, I'm like, I don't understand. And I remember we were me and one of our favorite buddies, me and Jordan, we were having a little duty session, and I was like, man, what is going on now that I've been here with SPT? I cry every day. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I don't, all these crazy stuff is happening, and I believe in aliens. Like I love aliens, and he's like, you gotta go talk to Seth. And so that's what I want to talk about is like, how do we discern what is true and what? Because that's what you asked me. It's the first thing you asked me, like, what do you feel? And I'm like, I feel like there's some bullshit, and I feel like there's some truth, and I'm sick of being gaslit. And that's what this awakening process feels like. It feels like you're being gaslit the whole time, and that's my conditioning. I have narcissistic upbringing, so I'm thinking, am I connecting these dots? Am I seeing what I'm actually seeing? And that comes from, can I trust myself enough to believe what's coming on?
yeah.
So if somebody's asking that, like, how do I discern what's bullshit and what's not? What would you suggest?
Yeah. So yeah, it's complex because we have to first recognize our own biases and maybe what our own trauma may drive us to believe or cling on to. And so when we're learning about all this stuff, we also want to not cling too tightly to anything. That's one of the first things.
Yeah.
We want to pay attention to our feelings for
Yeah.
sure. Right. But there's different kinds of knowing, right? Like there's the knowing of like, I know how to replace a light bulb when it goes out. I know how to, fix my, do an oil change. And, like there's very declarative, what we call knowledge, which is like, I know how to do this and this, right? That's a knowing. And I have that same kind of knowing now about the nervous system and trauma work because it's now been around 12 years I've been in this field, and I've done it enough that I can see, okay, yep, the anecdotal evidence and even like peer-reviewed research at this point is all pointing to like, okay, yep, this is true. And that matches with my feeling of, yes, this is true. Okay, I can say I know that. And then there's other kinds of knowing, which is just this feeling. Like I feel that to be true. One of the things that I had to learn is that as you're going through a process of learning things, that kind of knowledge that comes through the felt sense of knowing, it's very important, but not to confuse it with the other kind of knowledge. Because if you go around talking about your feelings as if it's true in the same way that I know how to screw in a light bulb, that can actually get you in a lot of trouble and can also turn a lot of people off, or you can get into a lot of arguments.
How
So
so?
that, so for example, yes, I feel that it's true that there are many forms of intelligence and consciousness in the universe. It's felt true to me since I was a kid,
Mhm.
right? But if I say I know that's true, then it's like, well, where's your proof? Well, what do you mean? I don't need proof. It's just my feeling. Oh, so you mean that it's just because you feel something is true, that means it is true, right? Yes, for me, that's the case. But as soon as you start talking about it in that way, it actually, well, I can't prove it because it's just a feeling. Is it okay to say, look, just because I feel it's true, that means it is true? Not that's it's tricky waters. And so it's important to recognize it for yourself, but to not cling to it, I think.
Mhm.
And to be open that you could be wrong, right?
I got
So I feel that it's true that we are part of a vast multidimensional experience of consciousness in which there are all kinds of beings that exist, a lot of which we may not even understand. Um, like, for example, we can only see, I think it's about 5% of the electromagnetic spectrum, so what's hanging out in the other 95% there, right? I mean, there's so much we don't know. So
you.
yeah, to me, I feel that's true, but I don't really go around talking about it so much anymore
Mhm.
because what's important is that it's true for me. Now, what I did with that book is I took everything that I had learned in this whole messy process of awakening and growing consciousness and becoming aware of other things, conspiracy theories, hidden realities, all that stuff. And I tried to put it in a way that told a story that could be helpful for people in sparking up their own inner knowings. And I say right in the beginning of the book, this isn't like, I'm not telling you the true story. That's not what this is. This is a mythology, right? And maybe it's true. Maybe there's parts that are totally factually correct. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Mhm.
I feel, there's parts that I feel, yes, this happened, but that's because it sparked up something within me.
Mhm.
I have a memory, like a somatic felt sense memory of this thing being true. And that's personal to me. Right. And so it's a complex thing. And when we've been through trauma, and this is how I was for many years, there can be a very strong tendency to insist that no, my feelings are true.
Mhm.
Because, like you, I was raised by a narcissist and I was told that my inner reality wasn't valid and was nonsense and unacceptable. So, in reaction to that, I'm going to, for years, insist, like, no, you're wrong. This is true. I know it's true because I feel it to be true. And you have to accept my feelings as truth. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of being in survival and in reaction, right? So I think the perspective of what we call the sacred neutral is so important as we're evaluating these topics. Like, I feel, oh, that feels true to me. Okay, I'm just going to sit with that.
Mm.
I don't have to, declare it. I don't have to. I'm just going to sit with this. I'm going to feel this. What's happening? What does this spark up in me? And just evaluating. Yeah,
I
taking
love,
time.
love that sacred neutral. I feel what you're saying, where it's like, it's almost like I have to be right,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can't, and also I can't say what I'm feeling because it'll be too crazy. It'll be so dismissed, or I have to like protect it, or I'm gonna reveal something, or people aren't ready for it,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody's gonna come and get me for speaking out against the narrative because it is such a 180 from what we've been taught.
So many, well, yeah, so many things are that way, about health, yeah, about medicine, about our history, I mean, yeah, yeah,
It's
we
all
we
it's all feeding the narrative and anything that it's got to go. For me, for this, I didn't realize this till a couple months ago. I used to think, oh, the standard American diet is garbage because bad science and because of cutting costs.
Well, and because of corporate interest. I mean, the whole low fat craze, low sugar, like there's corporate interest that, oh, we want to sell our product, so let's fund a bunch of research and we'll only keep the stuff that agrees with our narrative and we'll present that as fact. I mean, that happens all the time in research when it's funded by corporate interest. And then you get a picture of science that's completely wrong. I mean, there's so many things that have happened in that. Eggs are great for you. Now eggs are terrible for you, right?
It's Seth. You just got to trust the science, bro. What are you talking about? It's like, okay, so here's a question: is this by design? Like, I look at it like this, and maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. It's like it seems like there's an interest by somebody up here that wants to control, to poison, to keep sick, to separate, to stress out, to keep us tired until we can't think. And it's like this is done by design. Let's cut fat. Your brain needs fat, your hormone needs fat. We all know that. So is it an agenda to suppress humans and stress them out and keep them sick? Or is it just marketing and money following the paper trail?
It's a good question. And this is one of those places where it's like, yeah, we don't know for sure. My hunch was, what I know for sure is corporate greed, self-interest. That's all very real.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Is there a purposeful agenda to keep people sick? Maybe. It looks that way.
It does.
It certainly looks that way when we look at everything combined. But also incompetence, greed, all these things can also be mistaken for intent at a mass scale. It can be tricky to know the difference. But like, let's take medicine, for example. Like, if we just look at how did pharmaceutical medicines come about? Because not too long ago, the bulk of practitioners in the United States were homeopathic, were naturopaths, homeopaths. That was
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, this is before Rockefeller, before the oil.
Was that like the 30s or something like that? When
I don't remember the exact dates, but it's around the turn of the century, essentially. Like, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, all like mainstream was homeopathy, osteopathy, naturopathy. These were mainstream, right? That was what was normal medicine. Rockefeller, who discovered the oil, right? Who was a big part of the oil boom in the United States. He realized that you could use petroleum to make pharmaceuticals. So that at that point, it became about how can we maximize this profit? Well, let's invent the term quack, and all of these other things are quackery. Okay. He also was in charge of the education system. So let's change the narrative in education to support the petroleum industry and everything we can create from it. That comes along around the same time as Pasteur and Béchamp have their sort of divide around, is it germ theory or is it terrain theory? Well, the germ theory narrative fits hand in hand with the pharmaceutical narrative. So let's prop that up and ignore terrain theory, which is essentially, terrain theory just says the health of this system has an impact on how you experience contagion or pathogens. The terrain matters, right? Whereas germ theory says there's these germs, they come in, they do this regardless. It affects everybody the same. We know that's not true. But that, terrain theory is kind of forgotten, where it's like, actually, if you support this to be really healthy, you'll have a different experience when you encounter pathogens. Anyways, there's a lot of factors, and this one direction was chosen because it pointed to the most profit for this one group. Now, was that because he was sitting there like, I will enslave humanity?
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe, or maybe he's just greedy. But then, if we think about, well, more energetic influences, like what was acting on him? Clearly, he's in survival mode, right? He is wanting only to maximize his profit at the expense of all else. That's someone who is, living in survival mode.
He's asleep when he's making these decisions. He's making it for maximum profit himself. It's like, what do you talk about in the book? Service of self. So this guy's seeing a thing through service of self. He sees an opening and an opportunity, and he's going to capitalize. And
That's right.
he
That's
probably
right.
thinks he's doing good. And in retrospect, you can look back and go, I think it's easy to shift into like this. I've seen myself do it. This like victim mentality of the man is out to get me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we drill into it a little bit more, that's like a black or white way of looking at it. There's so much nuance that may be part of it.
Yep. And maybe relevant.
How probable is it that this man who's asleep, who is motivated by self interest, is also enslaving people in this process? It kind of goes together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is it intentional, or is it the byproduct of greed and living ruled by your brainstem, essentially? Which is an interesting thing. Like when we talk about, this is one of my favorite examples in terms of how things can get understood in different ways. So one of the main themes among conspiracy theory is the shape-shifting reptilian, right? All the global leaders are shape-shifting reptilians. David Icke says this. William F. Thompson said that in his interviews. There's a lot of people who will say that, right? Well, let's look at that. Someone who's in power, a human being who is in power, and all they want is power and wealth and more control, because that helps them keep their power and wealth. They're being ruled by their brainstem. What's the other word for the brainstem? It's the reptilian brain, the lizard brain, right?
Okay.
So this is someone who consciousness-wise is kind of operating like a lizard, yet they appear human, shape-shifting reptilian, right? They're lizards ruling the world. Well, kind of, because if you're only living with that as your motivation and you're ruled by the motivations of the brainstem, which are very simple and are about power and control and getting what you need, and you don't care about anybody else, sure, you're kind of acting like a lizard. Now, does that mean that there aren't creatures out in the universe that look like reptilian creatures? I don't know. I think there probably are, because there's so much, there's so much space out there. There's probably all kinds of creatures that look all sorts of different ways. That's my personal feeling. But does that mean that all our world leaders are actually aliens who can change their form to look human, or are they just simply being run by their lizard brain? So these are the types of things that I like to sort of think about when exploring these. And I think it's good. There's that sacred neutral perspective, right? Like, maybe. I know for sure that if you're just ruled by greed and the desire for power and control, you're being ruled by your reptilian brain.
And you're in survival and you're
Yes.
asleep,
Yeah.
and you're not like this coming out of survival is the humanizing thing. It's like I acted more like a lizard in my own interest, acting out of more fear and defensiveness and things like that before this journey.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. It's like, oh, I feel more humane, more human.
Yeah.
Even
Because you have more access to your humanity.
yeah.
Because the neocortex is basically what makes you human from a nervous system point of view. It's what differentiates us from all the rest of the mammals, is this neocortex, right? But you don't have much access to that when you're living with trauma. You have less access to being human. So yeah, doing the nervous system work is literally about moving humanity from a state of survival, from a state of being more reptilian to a state of being more human, to being a human being.
Mm. Let's talk about like how staying in a survival mode perpetuates the stuckness, the reptilian, humans being reptilian, um, and how that's being harvested. Like how are what's the benefit of keeping humans stressed and in survival?
We will keep on buying shit we don't need, and we will keep on using our energy to pay attention to things that hurt us rather than using our creativity and our consciousness to create things that are good for us and everybody else. So our energy is constantly being harvested in that way, in terms of, yeah, we are giving our life energy to stuff that isn't good for us. We're giving our money to consume things that we don't really need. So that is a very literal harvesting of our financial energy, of our consciousness, of our um, just our time, our energy. It keeps us from creating things and being generative and putting goodness out into the world from a place of our own sort of spark, our nature. What do we have to offer? I think everybody has something to offer.
Yeah.
But you can't discover that if you're staying in the hamster wheel, right? And it can be really comforting, right? It's those dopamine hits, like, oh, I need that thing. Oh, I got that thing. Ooh, oh yeah, I feel good for a little while, but then it doesn't last. So there's absolutely a massive collection, harvesting of our energy in those ways. Now, one of the things that I personally feel is true is that there have been on this planet systems of control that are about literally sort of harvesting a spiritual energy. And these are, if there are different kinds of beings, these would be beings and it live at a different level of density than us, and they are able to interact with our spiritual energy in a way that we may not be able to perceive. And so when we stay in suffering, we produce an energy that may be like food to these beings. And that is something that I feel has been true. Again, I can't prove that, but that is something that I've in my own felt experience and my memories. I've spent at this point 30 years of consistent meditation practice. So, you get shown stuff as you're doing that. Again, I stay in sacred neutral. I don't go around really talking about this stuff much. But yeah, from my perspective, it has felt true to me that, yeah, there's been this sort of spiritual system of control and harvesting of our energy. Now, I think that's ending right now.
Okay.
That's my felt sense, is that entire old system at an energetic level is crumbling because of where we are in the universe right now, just where our planet is. There's lots of measures of time in different traditions on this planet. The Mayan calendar, the yugas in the Vedic traditions. Most cultures have calendars that represent different cycles that have qualities to them. And among all of those systems, they kind of point to, like, yeah, right now we're coming out of a long, dark cycle and we're emerging into a much better cycle, at least, for humanity. And I do feel that to be happening because of just sort of where we are in the universe. This is, again, just my feelings, but it feels to me that different regions of the universe support different vibrations. And we've been in sort of this more dense area, and now we are moving into a different area. And that is going to be not supporting those old systems so much. So that fundamental architecture of control is crumbling, I think. And that's, I think, why we're seeing so much chaos. I think those on the ground, those corporate interests that have been aligned with that system of control that we keep on giving our money and our power away to, the political systems, the corporate systems, all of that is in a state of decay. And there's a sort of desperate grasping to try to retain control among those forces. And I think that's why we're seeing so much chaos and so much a lot of chaos right now, a lot of panicking going on.
The perfect time to do your nervous system work.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, it is the time, right? Because there's going to be, I think, a period for a while where it's like, yeah, it's gonna be pretty messy in the world. So, well, how can I come back to maintaining my well-being and my health, as we're in this time of change, and
Yeah.
neurosystem regulation work is the way.
Is the way. It's like it's hard to get over. We call it loosh, right? Loosh is the emotional harvesting. I want to know like what that some examples of what loosh is.
I'm not sure where that term was coined, but yeah, it's a popular term for negative, the energy of suffering, right? So that can exist on many different levels, from the guy experiencing road rage. There's a bunch of loosh pumping off of him as he's in that rage, or like a prisoner who's being tortured. That's a much more intense form of loosh that's coming off of them. The greater the suffering, and the more innocent the being, the greater intensity of that energy.
Porn being one, right? That kind of blew me away because it's so normalized. Same
Yep.
thing with like alcohol abuse, and I even think of like entertainment to distract. It has really fucked up my football watching this year because it's like I see that this is it's fun, I love it, and also I see that it's a major distraction. And let's get you real drunk and get you to get excited about this team that you love, and
Listen.
get your life for a season or whatever. Many of us 8 hours of uninterrupted football today.
Yeah, it's not to say that we can't engage with entertainment and stuff, but yeah, like, what is the motivation? Why are we doing it? What are we not paying attention to because we're only focused on this thing?
Mhm.
What's the nature of the thing we're looking at? Like porn's a perfect example. Yeah, most of it is pretty dark, sad kind of energy. Um, and there's probably, I think there's porn out there that is probably not that way. That's made by like couples who, like, they really love each other and they're get off on filming themselves, and like,
Yeah.
but so there's gradations in everything, right? There's gradations in everything, from the young girl who's trafficked, right, and filmed, that's extremely dark, tons of suffering, to like a couple that genuinely loves each other and they just get off on filming themselves. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah. So there's a spectrum with everything. There's, and what is a person's motivation for engaging with whatever it is they're engaging with?
Is that how we kind of judge? I don't know about judge or determine um, if we're using these human desires appropriately versus like I find myself like, oh, I'm enjoying a beer. Am I going to be an addict, or am I going to be looshing all over the place? Like, where's the line at, and how would you distinguish between those?
A lot of that learning comes in hindsight. It's like, how do you feel afterwards?
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
what we want to that's what we want to pay attention to. Like, do you feel just kind of chilled out and relaxed and good? Cool. Or like, do you feel like a piece of shit and you're hungover and you're suffering?
Mm.
Right? It's like, how do we feel? And as we start to learn those signals, we can modulate our behavior. A huge part of it is like, am I doing this thing because it's something that genuinely brings me enjoyment?
Mhm.
Am I doing this thing as a way to not pay attention to all this other stuff that's way more difficult?
Yes.
Like, what is the intent? What is the reason?
That makes so much sense because one thing I've kind of done for myself is I like that I use as like a gatekeeper. It's like, am I using this to connect, or am I using it to disconnect? Like,
Mhm,
am I love getting a good buzz with my wife on vacation and like
mhm.
having deep conversations? Not that we could silly, it's things that maybe were more difficult to talk about. They just come up and they free flow and we connect. Before I wake up, might have a hangover, but I'm like, man, last night was freaking awesome.
Totally. Yeah,
And
you felt good. Yeah.
it's a fine line, and it's like you could even get into that, and you're like, yeah, it was fun. If in review, like you were talking about, okay, so it felt good for the first drink or two, but when I had that sixth one,
Yeah.
we went to the after party, and then I didn't get home until the sun's coming up, and now I'm, so there's like I said, there's a spectrum, and it's just feedback, it's not like we failed, but you're getting more information, and the more we can see it like that,
Yeah.
the more we had more agency we had next time.
Yeah, and that's really the most useful way to look at it is, we have to accept that if we've been through trauma, which almost, everyone on this planet has in some way, um, then we are gonna have behaviors that are a reflection of that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have behaviors, thought patterns, bodily patterns, all sorts of patterns in the behavior, in the body, in the tissues, in the nervous system, in our thoughts, in our emotions that are driven by the unresolved trauma. And we need to accept that and have that compassionate, sacred, neutral perspective. Or can we just say like, okay, I see I did that thing.
Mhm.
Can I understand myself? Can I understand why I did the thing?
Mhm.
Whatever it is, like, I don't feel good. Why did I do that? Well, I guess maybe I was wanting to escape the pain of this other thing that's happening, or right, whatever it may be. But, having that kind of inquiry with ourselves is way more useful than, I'm such a piece of shit. Like that. And then we're just cycling. Like we do a behavior that's driven by the trauma, and then we have a reaction that's driven by the trauma. And it's like this self reinforcing cycle. One of the ways to step out of that, or to start stepping out of that, is to try to understand ourselves.
Mhm. I was watching this meme the other day, and it's like a video, a little short video, and it was like, this is what guys that have a really long week look like. And the guy's like getting home from his long week, and he goes to the refrigerator, and he doesn't drink. So he pulls out a brown bag, and there's a thing of mustard in it. And he just takes the mustard and squeezes the mustard into his mouth. And so it kind of goes back to this like external seeking for relaxation, where it's like, oh, if I've had a bad week, I need something because God knows there is nothing inside of me that's gonna be able to regulate this. It's just it's so normalized that at the end of the week you get the thing and you numb the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at the end of the day, or yeah, absolutely. Or fruit many times throughout the day. Or it's yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's because nervous system regulation has not been taught at a wide scale. It hasn't even been understood at a wide scale until very recently, and it's just emerging. It's an emerging field, which is hilarious because it's one of the most important things to understand about ourselves. When we can learn how to actually just use this stuff in a way that helps us feel better, that helps us come down, that helps us down regulate, to be more parasympathetic and come out of activation. When we learn how to work with those states, then yeah, you get the internal resource, right? And of yes, we're very much fixated on, I need this thing to feel okay. Um, and we talk about this in our programs, how it's okay to have those things. Right? We never tell anybody you got to dump all your coping strategies. It's like, no, that's great. That's great you have those. It's really good that you have a way to chill out and soothe your system.
Mhm.
Now, can you start learning some other things?
Yeah.
Right?
And I get a lot of questions about that too, from potential clients and people I'm working with, and they're like, they hear some of this work and they're like, "Oh, do I need to get off of this medication?" And and I've certainly had my coping strategies, and what I always say is, but you do not go stopping your medications. Switch to speaking with your doctor, yada yada yada. But what I found for me is that the things that I needed to support me, I need them less as I get more of the stuff out of my system. I move out emotions, I move out big emotional wounds, and now it's like, um, I want to go outside, and my impulses change. Instead of I gravitate towards this thing that's outside of me to settle, I may just want to go be outside and put my feet on the ground, and damn, it feels
Mm.
really good if I just lay on the ground for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But we don't get an operating manual as a human, and so we just don't know this stuff. And before I would have said, before this conversation, I would have said, like, that's because the man's trying to hold us down. And I see that.
Mm,
I walk outside this morning and I got chemtrails flying over my house. And I'm just like,
yeah.
which, and I guess what I'm opening my eyes up to a little bit with this conversation is that maybe it's a little bit more nuanced. This, it's not this grand plan that's been executed and everybody empowered knows, and they're just
Mhm.
here to oppress humans. It's a little bit of both. Maybe there's a little bit of that, and also there's a little bit of somebody's asleep at the wheel. They're motivated by greed and self interest, and they're pulling these strings that lead to these outcomes. And because we don't have that awareness of ourself and our choices, we don't know where that train's leading.
That's right. Yep. I think it's quite complex. And, one of the biggest things a person can do to regain agency is to understand that they are the powerful one, right? And part of getting that felt sense and that inner knowing such that you can really live that is starting to turn away from this narrative of, oh my God, the cabal is out to get me. They're keeping me enslaved. They have all the power. Well, if that's true, maybe it is. Yeah, maybe that's true. Like maybe there is a, ancient lineage of families that are embedded throughout society and all the corporate structures, and they work together and they have their own factions and they have their own infights and their drama, and they're working to
Maybe to have the other ice wall on the other side of the planet that we never get to see.
exactly. Like, I don't know, but like, who cares?
Mm.
Like, that's what is that belief and that knowledge that there is this thing that's more powerful than me that's controlling me. That belief is the system of control.
Woo! Okay.
So if you can start, like, even if that's true, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do what I can do to reclaim my humanity, to create and be of service to other people. And I don't give a shit what they're doing.
Okay. So what can we do then? What options do we have if we see this, whether it's 100% true or 10%
Mhm.
true? What can we as humans do to get our sovereignty and our choice and I don't know if you can wake people up, but heal the planet maybe.
Well, it starts, I think, with not clinging so tightly to beliefs and coming to this sacred neutral perspective about everything, including ourselves and our own beliefs. Right? Like, can there just be a maybe that we put into everything? Like, that could be true. Okay. Do I need to cling to that? Do I need to now be in reaction to that? No. Like, can we open our grip a little bit and instead of like being like this, kind of be like this? Oh, maybe, you know. So that's one thing we can start to do no matter where we are on our journey, is we can hold that intention of like, you know what, I'm gonna try to start being a little bit more open-minded
Yeah.
and less polarized and less clingy to my beliefs. And I'm gonna do my best to sort of feel it and not hold on to it. Then then it's like, well, then there's the actual work of becoming regulated. And that's the deep stuff. That's the deep medicine we can do to truly learn to become human beings and that can generate our reality the way we want it. That only comes from a place of regulation.
Yeah.
I feel, this is another thing where I don't know this to be true, but I feel this to be true, that we have the ability to manifest experiences. Even if that's not true, we certainly have the ability to be responsible about how we respond to experiences. Right? So that's the first place you start, is how can I start to change my response? How can I respond instead of react? What is necessary, right? So when something happens and we immediately go into reactivity, that is our survival mode. That is our trauma.
Okay.
I'm in reaction. When you can pause and just notice the reaction, you start to be able to respond instead of react. that means you respond to your reaction. That's what the nervous system work
Is
is.
it feel that reaction first and like pause with that and like,
Mhm.
which is a Jedi approach. It takes quite the capacity.
Takes time.
So I feel that reaction. It's like, no. And it's like, can I contain and hold that?
Can I be with it?
Mason, can I get from that versus like projecting that onto someone else?
Right. Survival energy is so urgent, it's very easy to run with it and just stay in reaction. That's what it kind of wants us to do. Like, I'm insulted, I'm mad, now I'm going to be mad at you. And rah, right.
And that's what happens when you pick a side.
Yeah, exactly.
You're over here, now you're pissed off at whatever happens over here, and then you're also blind to what is actually happening over here because your allegiance is so devoted to this person, save the external, saving you, instead of looking inward and say, what do I believe and what feels right to me? And that's where we kind of started this conversation when I was like,
That's right.
what's going on with aliens?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That ability to notice the reaction and pause. That's the first step. Like, and it takes a while to get there.
Yeah.
Because first we have to learn that we're in reactivity. Like, reactivity is normalized. Like, that's what's normal. So how can I start to question that and start to notice what is my reaction? And that's the somatic work, because that's how we notice it. By the time it gets to our thoughts, it can be hard to interrupt it because our minds are so powerful. But when we can start to notice the physical cues of that activation, that's what we start. Like, that's why we start with education, right? You're just like, oh, I am now recognizing that I am in a fight flight response.
Yes.
I know that because my heart is racing and I'm feeling kind of clammy. My shoulders are tensing up. My fists are clenched. I'm feeling, okay, I'm in a fight reaction right now. As soon as you can get that self-knowledge, then you can change it. But it's like that classic quote, before you can change what you do, you have to know what you do. You can't change it until you know it. So that's why education is where you start. You learn to recognize this is what's happening inside me before you can do anything about it. Then this is the work we do. We teach people how to work with that energy. How do you work with that survival energy? What are some other options? How can you down regulate? How can you go with the activation and express it in a way that's healthy, that isn't detrimental? So there's lots of creative options once you're able to recognize what you're doing. That's how it starts.
We got to really slow down. And it's like, I think you demonstrated that really nicely, where it's like, I have a trigger come in. Usually what you would find is like, now I am reacting and I'm on top of this person, or I'm freaking out. And the way to do it is to slow down. And it's like, this could be an inner dialogue. If it was me and you, we'd probably have this conversation, but I don't think this is a normal conversation for most people. And it's like, hey, wow, you asked that question. My heart's beating really fast. My breath is tightening. I want to scream at you because it is challenging a belief of mine. And so that's vulnerable. That gives more information to the environment with us. And you could be like, oh man, you're upset and I feel that and that's normal. And hey, that's not actually what I meant. And so now we can have a dialogue and we can communicate, and we'll probably find out that we got more things in common than we don't have in common. If there's like nuance separating. But if I react straight from the conditioning, that I'm just gonna blow up all over you, and nothing good is going to come for that. But if I can really slow down and contain this energy and get that information without letting that inform us from our body, instead of letting it bounce around in here, or trying it out with other, what do you think about this and this and that? Because now like for me, I know my decisions are gut and they're like that. And if I don't go with that, it's like I abandoned myself and I'm just getting muddied and watered down, and I need to go get quiet before I can even get back to the original answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's self-knowledge, right? That's the know thyself, one of the most ancient pieces of wisdom that we have. So yeah, you can't change it until you know what you're doing, and then you can start to work with it.
Oh yeah, and then magic happens. I mean,
Yeah.
it's change can happen, and it can some things happen quick, other things take
Mhm.
time, but
The one
it's
thing that Oh yeah, one thing that I've noticed is just looking at the trajectory of my life. The more that I turn towards self understanding and learning to be in more just compassionate inquiry with myself and to come out of survival mode and get more regulated. Like as that path has progressed, my life has gotten better and better and better and better. My experiences are better and better and better. I still have stress. I still have shitty things happen. I still have stuff that could maybe even be traumatic, but it's not because I know how to work with it in the moment. So life still happens. I think there is an like people who say we create our own reality. That's a massive oversimplification and actually not helpful at all because we are all in relationship with each other. We are all bouncing off each other, right? So we can, I feel, greatly influence our reality by how we respond to what happens to us, and our life will get better as we do that. But we can't control what happens to us. There is unpredictability, there is chance, there is randomness in the universe. So we can, at one level, create a much better reality for ourselves by changing the way in which we respond to events and we come out of reactivity, right? And that tends to lead over time to everything in our life being better. Our health, our situations that we find ourselves in because we no longer put ourselves into bad situations that are part of our trauma history, right? Everything can get better. So in that way, yeah, we are generating a different reality for ourselves that is far better. But it's not as simple as like you create your reality. It's like, well, yeah, there's an element in which that's true the more conscious one becomes, but it's because of how we respond to what happens. Right? Now, we also can generate on purpose. This is where we get into creativity. Right? We are creative beings and we can create things. And that's often one thing that I'll say to people is like, what can you create? Like, how can you start looking at what can I create today? And that might be dinner, right? You might put intentionality into making your dinner. Or maybe you learn a new recipe and like you decide to make it, I'm gonna learn something and be creative in that way. Or maybe, yeah, you have some form of art that you do or writing, or maybe you're creative in your relationships in that you strive to understand a person better and understand yourself better, which is an act of creativity. So, how can we start to create? That is another way to interrupt that cycle of reactivity. It can be difficult to access sometimes if we've been through a lot of trauma.
oh yeah.
And for other people, they create solely out of their trauma. Like a lot of artists are creating amazing art. That's a whole nother discussion. Like you can create tremendous art from unresolved trauma, but it's not sustainable. Right. So that's a whole different discussion. But yeah, that's one thing. Another thing people can start to look at is like, how can I engage purposely with things in my life in a way that is creative, because that brings you again into this neocortex, into your creative mind. Yeah.
Yeah, like once you can see it, you can see these patterns, you don't have to be it. And I am seeing a freaking pattern right now through my thinking with this that I was not aware of. And so I want your help if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
So this topic, I've learned about sensitization,
Mm,
a sensitized nervous system. It's kind of like
mm,
being hyper vigilant
mhm.
and everything is a threat. And
Yep.
what keeps us stuck in that state is like, there's usually a lot of activation in the beginning. After a period of time of intense activation, we shut down and we're probably blended with like sympathetic and high tone dorsal, right? Freeze. And so what keeps us stuck, which is I bring this pattern into everything. And now I'm seeing it for like politics. I brought it into therapy where I'm like,
Mhm.
uh, after I had a session with you, it was so profound. It really brought out a freeze. And I'm like, oh, now if I am upset, I just need to work with someone. Like I
Mm.
can't sit with this. It's not okay if I'm not okay if I'm in freeze. And so for the next last couple months, I've been showing up every day, pissed off at how I'm feeling, or every session, pissed off at how I'm feeling. And I'm like, we need to figure this out and we need to fix it.
Mm.
That has been my health journey. I got to figure this out and I got to fix it. It's been in my I brought it into my sessions, and now you said that earlier about there's neutral, right?
Mm.
And there's observing and watching, or it's I got to figure this out and I got to fix
Mhm.
it, which is you can say I'm waking up, but I'm actually staying asleep because of the conditioning that I'm not aware of, or I'm becoming aware of that is still guiding things.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Like these patterns can take a long time to get underneath. And what's important is that you see them, which you are, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I need to, what was it you said? I need to fix this?
Figure it out and fix it. So to in context of like health, this is me biohacking and trying to figure out what's wrong with me and tinkering and changing and constantly monitoring and anything that is new, sensationally, emotionally, or different. It's like, oh, this is bad. I'm going backwards now. I need to figure this out and fix it. And it's like
Yeah.
everything becomes a threat. And now there's perfection that comes in here as well, where it's like I have to make the right decision. I'm afraid to make the wrong decision. I got to
I
make the
am.
perfect one. So now I'm
Yeah.
frozen because there's nothing.
Yeah. You painted yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's yeah, we can bring our trauma patterns into anything, including healing itself.
Yeah.
It's this way of the sense of urgency, right?
So it's got
So
to.
yeah, yeah, part of this, of course, we do need to figure stuff out at a certain level, but I think I need to figure this out so I can fix it is much less useful than I need to be with this so I can understand it.
Oh, I like that.
And that's a sacred neutral response. Because if you, as soon as you need to fix something, that means there's something wrong.
Well, I feel like I had to fight back when I see
Mhm.
this political stuff. I'm like, somebody enslaving me and harvesting my stress. And so, one, I'm gonna be perfect,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna figure out what's going on so I can wake up all these assholes that are watching the news, let's say, or that don't agree with what I say. And I'm also gonna get super triggered and defend my point because I have to be right. I'm afraid of being wrong instead of
Well, yeah.
neutrality.
That's right. And that is the nature of the survival response. Is about being right. And that's, there is very little actual discussion going on in social media, in the political arena, on in media in general. There's very little actual discussion because people are living in survival mode. It's about being right. It's about I need to win. And as soon as that's the motivation, there is no ability to understand. It's no longer even about the issue, right? Like it's not about the issue, it's about winning. And unfortunately, our social media spaces right now are deliberately engineered to cultivate and support that. They are places where we are encouraged and rewarded for doing battle with each other, for arguing, right? That's not conspiracy theory. That's a fact. That's how those platforms are engineered. That's what the algorithm supports. Be in conflict, right? Fight with each other. Then we get your data. It's all about harvesting data. The more you stay on there, the more data they can accumulate. And the best way to keep people on there is to keep them in a fight mode. Right. So
So if you're me and you're seeing these patterns of constant fix it, figure it out, how do you shift into that more neutral observation? And I love what you said, be with it so I can understand it. It's really just it's meeting what's here, right?
that's right. And then, so that's the first part. Change your mindset to I need to be with this so I can understand it. And then do that. Be with it. Like what are you actually feeling? What is the felt sense? of the experience right now? What is the emotion or emotions that are present? Let go of what you think the issue is and come inside and experience, what am I feeling? What is this brought up in me? And then as you sit with that, you may have understanding.
Ooh,
Oh, I'm feeling like I'm fucking 3 years old right now, and my dad is screaming at me.
I'm being controlled and I don't have agents. I don't
And
have.
I feel like that's right. Because when you were a kid, that was actually true, right? When we're children and dependent on our caregivers, we are controlled a lot of the time, literally. Like, it's not a conspiracy theory, right? But then we apply these childhood wounds and project them onto the systems of government, which is totally optional. You don't have to engage with the systems of government. I mean, it's probably going to help uh, your life be a little bit easier if if you earn money. It's probably going to be a little bit easier if you pay taxes, because you won't. But like, there's plenty of people. Like, I lived for 15 years never filing taxes because I didn't make any money, and that was my choice. Like,
How did you come back? How did you transition? Was there anything that you had to happen to transition back into that?
oh man, so much. Like, that was the
Really?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, so when I came out of the counterculture because of Irene, I mean, because that's why I met her, and she lived in, Canada. So I had to move out of my safe little bubble, and we lived at first in Whistler, which was a pretty mellow transition, like from living basically in the counterculture of the woods. Whistler's a resort town, so but I had to start making money and get a job, and every step of the way was an internal battle. I'm not going to work for the man, I'm not going to fucking all this stuff, all of these old beliefs, which are essentially about me being mad at my father, like, uh, I had to work through that stuff internally so that I could live in the world again. And there's all sorts of different thoughts about this. Like, I have a friend who he lives in the world and makes money, but he doesn't pay taxes or file taxes at all. And he spent decades researching the law and differences, and like, he knows how the bank systems work, and he understands the various contracts, all that stuff. I mean, that's cool. I don't really have the energy for that. So I chose to play the game. I understand it is a game. And if you look at it that way, it takes away some of the charge around it. That's one of the big things I had to look at, is like, oh, I see. This is a game where if you abide by these rules, you can live in this kind of world. I'll see what that's like. I know that I don't have to. I can live in a different kind of experience if I want, because I did that. So now I'm going to try this, you know, and I'm going to pick my battles, So yeah, I will have the bank account and I'll file my taxes, and cool. That's fine. I don't mind doing that, because I don't really care that much. I'm going to put my energy into creation and being of service to other people. And I don't have any belief that thinks that this system is harvesting my energy. It's like, because I'm choosing to give it to you in the form of money. Like, I don't care. There's plenty more where that came from, right? Like, what is the mindset of how we engage with these various systems? It's if we can not be in reactivity and projecting all our unresolved trauma and anger upon the various systems of government, then it frees us up a lot internally. So I mean, that was a long journey, though, because I was in reactivity and fighting against it for years and years. Like, yeah, it was just years of work of looking at, learning to look at my reactivity and what is this really about? What am I really feeling right now? Learning to recognize I'm in a fight response right now. This isn't useful. I need to stop talking. Like, it just that learning to recognize where we're at. So yeah, that's how it was, just lots and lots of work.
It's always education and
Mhm.
self observation and practice and yeah,
Yeah.
feedback and responding in a different way if that doesn't feel like it's in alignment.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So to kind of wrap things, this has been awesome. I have so many more questions, and I could go with you all day on this. I would love to another time talk about more sacred masculine and toxic masculine, and see how that's showing up in the world. That would be a whole nother hour from this. But that's something I'm starting to tune into. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's always great to chat with you, especially one dude to another. I think we have a lot of similar uh,
Okay.
backgrounds from growing up, and a lot of things that we shared today. It really spun me on my head to where I see that I'm bringing some of these patterns, some of these survival patterns, conditioning, anger towards upbringing, and like pointing that at the man or the government, and feeling like a victim in the process of that. And so I love this, like introducing the topic of sacred neutrality, and seeing it as a game. You know that makes, because then there's all kinds of fun options and experiments and things that we can try on, not necessarily like test and um, feel like someone's out to get us.
Yeah. Yep. That's like, that's, yeah. As long as we have the thought someone's out to get me, that thought is the thing that's out to get you.
Wow. Yeah, dude, that I get a little heat from that one. Well, I know you have a resource that has helped me, that has helped so many people. So if somebody's like, man, I am wanting to start my own nervous system journey, and really start to unpack these things, and wake up all on my own, where would you point them?
So there's many different ways. I would encourage people to start with education, just start learning. And there's many ways you can do that absolutely just for free. My blog is one way, sethlyon.com. I've got a blog if you like the written word approach. I've got lots of articles about all this stuff. My wife, Irene, has about 1 million times more material than I do. She's got also has a huge blog, irenelyon.com. Most of those are videos, which are often are also available on YouTube. So Irene Lyon on YouTube. Many, many different ways to learn about this stuff that I would encourage people to get started with. If you are more of a video consumer, then she's got something called the Healing Trauma video series. Just go to her site, irenelyon.com, and look at the free resources section. There's all sorts of stuff there, but Healing Trauma video series is a really good way to get the basic understanding. I've got a blog. If you're more into the reading, I've got a blog called Trauma 101 that is a summation of the details of what trauma is, what's needed to work with it, all that stuff. So there's lots of ways to start learning just absolutely for free. There's also ways to start doing the work for free. Again, Irene Lyon's free resources section. There's some practical practices in there that are really useful. And if you want to like really get into it, like get into the work and start practicing and doing it for yourself, there's many ways you can do that. There's online offerings created by my wife, Irene. There's the 21-day nervous system tune-up, which is what I suggest people start with, even before doing private sessions, which is another great way. Like if you can find a good somatic experiencing practitioner, that's the big caveat there, like a good one.
That's why I'm smiling. I'm like, good
Yep.
luck.
Good luck, because there's not that many, but they are out there. There's some amazing, wonderful practitioners out there. However, you won't really know what to look for if you aren't already informed to some degree. So I encourage people to do the 21-day nervous system tune-up first, which is the cost of maybe 2 sessions with a practitioner. And that will make you way better informed about what to look for if you do want to do private sessions. I also have a resource which is music based, because that was my main background before I got into nervous system work, was as a composer and multi-instrumentalist, recording artist, singer, songwriter, various stuff like that. So I created this piece of music called Tellurica, which is telluric, means of the earth. And the whole purpose of this album is to help align one's energy more with the earth Gaia kind of vibration, which can start stirring up stuff. So it's a healing tool. It's not just music. That's available on my site. You just go to sethlyon.com and click on the music tab. I also have tons of free music that's available all over the place, but Tellurica is pretty strong medicine. So if someone responds well to sound healing, I would encourage them to explore that, which is available for purchase there. And then the final thing, if you want to really go deep, Irene and I run a 12-week program called Smart Body, Smart Mind that we open for registration twice a year, usually in the spring and the fall. And that is the full sort of enchilada, the deep dive into all the different systems. And that's, of course, as you know, a lifetime membership and much more than just 12 weeks of material. It's a lot of material that will keep people busy working on themselves for many years in most cases, because there's so much there. So lots of ways to get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that. The Tellurica, is that what's in Smart Body, Smart Mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you join SBSM, you get that for free. That's just part of it. But you can also just buy it on my site.
Yeah, I love it. I didn't find it until our second visit to Canada with you guys. I love like noise canceling headphones, and then turn that way up, and it's like the last time I did it, I went to another place, and I was in the bathtub. Actually, it's kind of funny. Bathtub, long day. I'm probably using one of the relaxer ones. I think it's head and neck or neck and shoulders or something like that. And I was listening to that, and I was so vibed out. Nobody's home. My wife's away. I'm in the bathtub, and my dog's nose comes up and just touches me right here, and I about jumped up. Brought me back to Earth very quickly.
Yep, stay on Earth. Stay aware of your surroundings. Yeah, that's the thing. That's pretty strong medicine, that music. At least, depending on how you respond to music. For some people, they may listen to it and feel nothing. Right? It's pretty individual. But if you respond to music, it's pretty strong. And part of this work is not just about going internal. It's about staying connected to the environment. Right? So yeah, your dog was a little point of reconnection there. Like, hey, yo, don't vibe out too much, man. You gotta stay in the world. And we're back.
What's that? And we'll also put a link to Seth's book if you guys want to check that out. Thank you for supporting my spiritual journey and my nervous system journey, and being the guide, and sharing all these great resources with everybody. Normalizing some of this stuff, and encouraging us to stay open in the sacred neutral, and be with, so we can understand, not figure it out and fix it.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on, Seth. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Sounds good, Mitch. Thanks so much.
All right, talk to you later, brother.